Hello, fellow AFL enjoyers. We're back. Let's do it, lads. Round 11 should be good. You know?
Are we both mentally fatigued with our teams yet, or
I'm very happy.
The buyers come at a good time for both.
I was going to say, yeah, we're all on the buy.
Usually we hate the buy. The buy this week is just God's wish. God's granted us saviour.
Yeah, pretty much, man. It's look, we'll start at least where the round started with Thursday, and not talk about our teams just yet, but a couple fun teams, and I enjoyed this game.
Great game.
Yeah, there was just a goal fest, you know, and I would say two of the top, let's say 5-6 teams, maybe two of the top 4 teams playing, Geelong versus the Doggies.
The interesting thing is, I think we'd all agree, if we say, like, how do you rate the Dogs this year? Everyone's like, yeah, they've been mad. They're 7th on 24 points.
Yeah.
That feels weird to me.
It feels weird to me when you consider Collingwood's 36 points, top 4 is, Crows are 28, tied with a couple other teams, but it just seems like they're more like a 30-odd point team.
Well, I feel like the Dogs' whole season has changed once the Bond has come in. So if you kind of part the season from when Bond starts, I don't know what their win-loss is, but they've definitely been playing better football. And, you know, the best player in the competition comes in, it's going to make a difference to your team.
Yeah. Look, if we look at the teams that they've lost to so far, it's been Collingwood in round 2.
Which was a harsh one. Yeah. I remember on the day, there was a bit of controversy there.
Yes, yep. That was actually, there was some sort of milestone that day.
It was their 100-year
That's what it was, yeah.
Anniversary game, yeah.
Fremantle, they lost to Fremantle at Optus. They lost to Brizzy.
Lions, yeah.
Yeah, so look, the games that they've lost, even against the Gold Coast, you know, that was another, you know, close one, and it was over there at Darwin. So it's like, you know, I'm not too concerned with them and them losing games because they've lost tough games as it is. But yeah, in this game, they missed their opportunities, man. Which is, you know, they sort of shot themselves in the foot, but you know, at least they're making the opportunities. So.
They missed their opportunities. Jeremy Cameron 6-0. Neil 5-0.
My boy.
11-0 between your key forwards is crazy.
It's insane. But it's very Geelong-esque. Like, I feel like they're very efficient inside 50. So they take their chances. And the Dogs had 17 points.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And a lot of them, there was some stat in this week saying that the Dogs have kicked the most posters out of any other team by like a million miles. It's like they're practicing some sort of hit the post challenge or something.
Well, in soccer, it's the crossbar challenge.
Yeah, crossbar challenge. Yeah.
They're doing it with the goalpost. Maybe they should stop that. You know, they should be doing that one anymore.
They're like, lads, this is the last week, make it count. But yeah, you're right. And Jeremy Cameron kicked 7 goals last week, didn't he? So he's kicked 13 goals.
He was on a wing in the first handful of games, and then all of a sudden he's leading the Coleman.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
When you kick 13 goals in two games, it's pretty easy to lead the Coleman, I think.
Yeah, fair, but look, still, it's it just shows how high his ceiling is as a player, from, you know, ineffective, you know, to an extent on the wing, to, you know, scoring goals. But yeah, Bailey Smith though, he turned up against his old boys. A little bit of chirp in that game, a little bit of bite, which was nice.
Yeah, I feel like it was more from the fans than it was from the Dogs though.
Like, it was pretty, like, they were physical, but it was all respectful.
Yeah.
They never crossed the line. It was fine.
Yeah, that's cool. It's their mate, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you're not going to all of a sudden turn on the dude, you know, apart from a couple cheeky comments that he makes here and there about Ballarat and whatnot. Like,
the funny thing was, everyone was expecting tempers to flare up between the players. What actually happened was Bevo v Kane Corns pregame was where all the fire was at. Man, respect up Bevo.
Yeah.
Dude doesn't take any shit from anyone.
You know, he hasn't all year. He's kind of been pretty strong, hasn't he?
Man.
I feel like we said it in a previous episode. It was like, with him, because he doesn't take shit from anyone, doesn't take shit from journos and whatever, it makes you want to support him, and the players want to just back him in. You know what I mean? So it's just, he proved it again to us. And the thing I thought was interesting is that, I don't know who was saying, I don't know if it was him or Kane saying, oh, you know, it wasn't that big a deal. You know, I think you guys are overlooking at it. You're overlooking into it. But it's like, for Nick Rewalt to be like, Kane, obviously he had to settle him down. Obviously something was going on. You don't actually know, it was Nick Rewalt who said it. He said, oh, you guys are like looking into it a bit too much. It's like, Nick, you had to get him to calm down. Obviously there was something going on there, you know.
Nick Rewalt's like, man, I don't want to back this guy up in another fight. Like, just shut up.
100%.
But no, great game of footy. I think what we can all agree on is, man, Thursday night footy, you got both teams scoring over 100 points. It's the most fun kind of games, those high-scoring, close games.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to... Hopefully these teams and like the Collingwoods and the Brisbanes kind of feature on the Thursday night, Friday night more, because I don't know, even like a Dreamtime, obviously. I thought Dreamtime was always on a Saturday.
Yeah.
They moved it to a Friday, and like it's a big clash, but Essendon and Richmond at the moment is not the type of teams that really excite. So yeah, you need Thursday night football to start the round hot. And I feel like Geelong's the type of team to do that because they just play such fast, effective football. Like how many times did they kick it twice and it was in the back half and it was in the forward half? So they're a pretty special team. I think they've got a pretty good run home as well. So
I saw that actually. It's crazy. Their post-bye fixture list, I think they play like 3 games outside of Victoria. So between GMHBA and the G is like 10 of their last whatever games, 13 games.
A lot of them are bottom half of the table teams as well. So they'll
finish top 4 surely with that run.
Yeah, I think they will.
I think I had them. I had them first.
You had them first.
Hey, man, there's still a chance
with
there.
this run, it's on.
Yeah. So there we go. Look, I think a good thing for them, like obviously, so Smith killing it, Holmes killing it. Graham Myers, I was paying particular attention to him because I haven't been draft. But while like I feel like it was mainly the first half is when he killed it. His kicking, like it must be up there with the best kicking in the league, man. Like when he
kick it inside 50, yes, 100%.
But not even that. Like even just the corridor kick. You know what I mean? You think that he's looping it up way too much just because of the style of kick, but all of a sudden it always just lands into he's kicking targets' hands with ease.
It's almost for me like the Irish style, like Gaelic sort of kicks, like off the side of the boot, the no look sort of just loop it, like almost like a soccer side foot sort of kick sometimes.
The way the goalkeepers, goalkeepers sort of like kind of go on the side to get that bit of extra leverage into their kicks.
Changes the angles.
It's the reason they call him the Messi of.
That is true. That is true. He's Messi.
Well, not many players use the ball like that and can just get it where it needs to be, even if it's not a conventional drop punt. So, he certainly helps.
100%. Look, I find it cool that he's not really a small forward anymore. He's coming up the ground a lot.
Up the ground
like he's
time.
a wing. He's he's always involved in chains. So I enjoyed his game a lot.
From the Dogs' perspective, it's just another 2 goals from Ed Richards, another 3 goals from Kennedy. It's insane. The return they're getting from these midfielders is insane.
Yeah, my dad brought up like earlier. He's like, "Oh, how did they let go of Dunkley?" I'm like, "Look, they gave up Dunkley and Bailey Smith, yet they still have the best midfield in the league, arguably."
Yeah.
Like,
well, Treloar's still not even playing.
And Treloar's not even playing. So, man, the goal scoring power from that midfield. Like, how many goals did Bonk get? Did he get any? It doesn't look like he did. But he doesn't need to because he had other 2 midfielders getting 5 goals between them.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the pressure's not on him to be chipping in with goals as well. So, man, it's a very potent team. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Jump into the Thursday game.
Bit more of a boring game.
Yeah,
obviously. You know what? Bombers for me, it's a game they have to win. So I'm not going to give them too high of props. I'm not going to shit on them like we usually do.
As fun as that might be.
Yeah, it's hard as it is.
Yeah.
But no, look, it was a bit of a danger game. I did say. Wasn't this the one we were joking about last week where I'm like, let the record show? Or was that the Port game?
I think it was this one.
I feel like we say let the record show for every tip.
I do. Possibly I do. But it was a bit of a danger game because they've been a bit decimated in their key backstocks. And another one, I think Mackay's missing next week. And you just think like, look, if Richmond gets a bit of a run on, it is possible for them to keep this close. And they did for the most part.
They did for the most part, yeah.
But yeah, Bombers did what they had to do. Merritt, the Martin, Caldwell specifically got it done. So
yeah,
hats off.
100%. Look, Nick Martin, that's like the stats for this guy, man. 26 kicks, 2 goals, 10 score involvements, 660 meters gained. Dude was everywhere, man.
He's a bit of an underrated player, Nick Martin. I think the criticism on him is that he doesn't do a lot of damage by foot, but whenever I watch him, it always looks like he's playing pretty well.
I think he's a weird one because he gets a lot of the ball and it's not always damaging, but the fact that he's always giving an option, the fact that he's always running
super hard.
Yeah, he's the type of player like you put him almost in the category just the running capacity and the presence for the handball receive. It's like a Dacos, Bailey Smith, Holmes, but obviously not with the same, damage, class. But like, look, he's got probably the harder part, down pat to an extent, the ability to always be in the right position and receive. Now it's just, adding that bit more, maybe a bit more strength, maybe a bit more, potency.
He knows where to be. He hits the scoreboard. As far as I'm concerned, he's top 3 player on their list in terms of impact.
Yeah.
Impact, yeah. Well, if you're getting it that much, yeah. And then it's, Merritt, Caldwell, like that's what they need to see, you know. And even Roberts has had a really good run of games as well. He's getting a lot of ball. Another guy, just giving him drive. You know what I mean? Give him a bit of drive.
Well, they also got 3 goals from a first gamer who won the Rising Star in Clark as well.
Yeah.
Stole one off Rolly Hardman, but anyway,
I was going to say, Hardiman had I was surprised that he won it over Hardiman.
No, Clark had a great game. Yeah, hats off to him as well.
Yeah. Look, I think in a high profile game as well, to kick 3 goals on debut, you know, you get a little bit of credit where it's due, man.
I think the disappointing thing for Essendon is, you touched on it, Dean, is like Kyle Langford goes out, Zach Reed, who's had a great start to the year, and has had injury concerns over the last couple of years, has now got another soft tissue injury. So that's 2 keys, again, that have gone down with Essendon. So that just makes it even, like, they don't really have a lot of options now.
Well, look, I think I saw like a photo of their list and how many 200 centimetre players are left, or 190 plus centimetre guys are left. It's like 4 or 5 of them. You know what I mean? Like, so their tools are just decimated. 2 rucks gone. A lot of their defenders gone. I think even Ben Mackay
This week.
This week he's going to miss. Like, I don't know how they're going to field. I don't know how they're going to sort out this team, to be honest with you. You know, Redmond will have to play taller. I don't know. Do they swing? I don't know.
Their only hope is very organised team defence, because if it's getting in there easy, I mean, generally speaking, you're in trouble. But if you got no one to put the bodies on, forget about it.
Someone has to go back. Someone has to just get sent back for a bit out of position, that type of thing. I don't know. Does one of Dino's boys, Kale Ryan, maybe get a little?
Wait, don't excite me.
Yeah, does he get a little bit of
the
a
one
look
thing
in?
I like about Essendon, my draft boy, Kale Jerome. I've got to check what he's doing in the VFL.
Yeah, not true, man. He was your boy, man. He's your boy. He's a player that I'm hoping, you know. That's the one thing I hope goes well for Essendon. So, you know, is Kale Jerome. But yeah, no, look, Richmond, same thing we can talk about every week.
Yeah.
Look, I guess we can say, you know, in the absence of Short, Banks has been getting a lot of the ball and he's using it okay.
Yeah, 29 disposals.
Yeah, look, it's just good to see another dude get an opportunity to see what he can do and see if it can be a long-term piece for him. I'm not sure if he can, to be honest with you, but, you know, 600 metres gain, nothing to scoff at, you know what I mean? A lot of kicks, so, yeah. But yeah, no, I think we'll jump into Carlton.
Carlton sucks.
Carlton sucks, yes. Carlton sucks. Look, this must be a big, tough pill to swallow.
Well, it's not a tough pill to swallow because I've been swallowing it for years. It's just really stuck in my throat.
You got a prescription for this pill.
Yeah. Look, I think Dean kind of said that he'd switched off a little bit emotionally over the last couple of weeks, and I have as well. And it's not that hard for me to do, to be honest, because
it's great.
It's not that hard to switch off with Carlton because they've been shit for such a long time. It's unbelievable. But a couple of years ago, I made some video, or we made a TikTok where I basically shat on the team and said I want everyone gone and they're all shit. And you know what? I was right.
You were right. No, the thing is, because it was that week, you guys beat like Gold Coast and you smashed
and
them.
We went on the run.
And then you went on the run.
That's the only period of Voss's coaching that we've actually done anything.
Well, not just Voss, but recent memory.
Since the 99. Look, it's the same thing every week, and it just reinforces the fact that we don't quite have either it's the players or the coaching, or it's both, and I think it's both. I think potentially Voss is restricted in what he can do because he just doesn't quite have the personnel to play a more classy, speedy game style. I mean, you got the Bulls, you got the Cripps, you got Hewitts, you got Cherries, you got these type of players. They're big body players. Wiedering's a big body player. Mackay, Kerno, big body players. Akers, big body players. That's kind of just what the team's made up of. But all these stats coming out about how Carlton's like the worst kick inside 50 team in the competition, and they're showing all the champion data ratings of where they're all ranked, and they're all ranked like 300th in the comp and shit. But we won contested possession by 38 or something. We won inside 50s by 9, and we just bomb it in. It comes out, and GWS kicks a goal on the rebound. We do all the hard work. We get it forward. We just need the final piece. They rebound, they kick a goal. And that's just the whole game. And it's just so annoying to watch because you see a build up and you're like, oh, that's not too bad. Okay, they're working. Oh, shit, the Giants have managed to kick a goal there. And it's just the same thing that we've been talking about for years and years and years. And it's like, do something else. Utilize the fact that you got 2 key forwards that are very good players and one-on-one players. And they just can't do it. And they're just not good enough. And yeah, this disappointing, one of the most disappointing things about it is when something like this goes wrong and you realize, all right, they're just not anywhere near it. You want change. But there's no change to be had because there's no one to come in from the VFL. And we don't have a draft pick this year. And it's just like, how are the list management team going to reinvent this team? Because they've got to do something quite dramatic, I think.
Look, I think probably one of the starts to that is TDK, you let him go.
He probably has to go now,
Yeah, you let him go. Look, I think the one thing I will say about the first round picks in this year, Cal Toomey mentioned something along the lines of the top 5 picks in this year's draft. Or no, the top 5 years in the previous 2 drafts would be number 1 in this year's draft. So I don't think there's as much high-end talent.
Yeah, the top end.
Yeah, the top end isn't as good. So you're not as concerned that you don't have a top 4 or 5 pick, which who knows if that's where you guys are going to end up. But that could be a starter, I guess. You get something out of TDK. Then, I don't know, do you start shopping? Who do you start shopping? You know what I mean?
Look, we know that we need small forwards. I've said that a million times. We know we need probably some players that can deliver the ball from the half-back line. We need half forwards as well. Like if you talked about Graham Myers and these types of players, Oliver Dempsey, these type of players that Geelong has, we don't have anyone to that level that has that class. One of those players that does kind of have that is like an Elijah Hollands, and he hasn't played at all this year, and he keeps going out with mental health. So, like, who can we actually rely on in this team? It's just, and even like Wiedering had probably his worst game he's played in a long time, and he's a rock, right? He never plays a bad game, and when he plays a bad game, you kind of think to yourself, "Oh man, what's happening?" So look, I actually expected to win this game, funny enough, because we've got a good record against them. And
I tipped Carlton.
I tipped them well, and it's kind of like, it's the rebound game. It'd be a typical Carlton thing to run away with this and win it. And then when it was close in the third quarter, and in the last quarter when they kind of just ran over the top, like, what in the world, man? So look, they're just in no man's land. There's not really any positives at all. They're 4-7 coming into the bye. Some of these long-term injuries, like the Newmans and the Jaggers, are not going to come back this season, so you're not getting anything from them. We do have some players to come back in that will make a difference, but it's the same problem that Carlton has is, if Zach William plays in the forward line, he's a bit better than Motlop. But then he'll play 2 games and he'll get injured. And then Cottrell will come in and provide some run, but then he doesn't really play consistent football. And it's just, there's pieces there that at their absolute best play good football, but are not consistent enough to contribute for a full season. So that's where the rebuild, the mini reset, or whatever you want to call it, that Carlton needs to go under, needs to address. It needs to address the fact that Mitch McGovern is good when he's playing good, but he's really bad when he plays bad. And it's like, maybe Mitch McGovern just needs to go, and you need to get someone that is not as good as Mitch McGovern at his ceiling, but is better than Mitch McGovern on his flaws.
I think
like that type of stuff.
What you're saying there of like guys like McGovern and Cottrell and that, I think that says to me more, your system doesn't hold up. And that's where I think it is the coaching as well, because you can be consistent when the system is rock solid.
And average players look better.
Correct, in good systems. Yeah. So I think you do have the star players, sure, but something's not holding up consistently.
Yeah.
But because also then you don't have the small forwards to get you goals out of nothing most of the time. Like even a guy like Thomas from the Giants, Harvey Thomas, comes in, 20 disposals, zippy, fast, good decision maker, good skill. Not Brian Myers level, but might as well have been in that game.
Yep.
Just guys like that, you're sort of lacking where you're thinking just a bit of skill, bit of zip, bit of flair.
Guys that take their chances and can make something out of nothing, sure, but just make good decisions. Like these players just don't make good decisions.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a weird thing that I've been wrestling with Carlton for a long time, and I've tried to express is the fact that we've got good players, but it just feels like they only play good sometimes, or they only play good when it suits. And you think to yourself, if I just had a more consistent player that was worse than them, I'd almost prefer it than a player that has a really high ceiling but a really low floor as well. I don't know, it's like they can't be relied on. And you also look at something like a Matthew Kennedy, and Matthew Kennedy played a lot of serviceable games for Carlton, but he's starring like one of the best mid-forward players in the competition at the moment. And he played for Carlton last year. And you just think to yourself, if Walsh went to a different team, would he be a superstar again? If Kerner went to another team, would he be kicking 6 goals a game? You'd almost think he probably would.
Yeah.
Kerner kicked a goal off one step from 60 metres in that game. And that's pretty much all he did.
And I reckon that players will be looking at that and being like, oh man, grass might be greener, bro. Like I might have to get out.
You know what I mean? And how can Cripps be walking off the field thinking, oh no, it'll turn, boys? It's not turning, Cripper. You've been there for like 11 years.
Yeah. Look,
you've won 2 Brownlows and it's not enough.
What I will say, look, you guys, the next 4 games, Essendon, Eagles, North, and Port. You win. I reckon you need to win all those games.
Yeah.
Then you become 8 and 7.
And then
It's
we'll be
not
like,
as bad.
We'll be like, Carlton's still a chance again. And then they'll go up against the next team and they'll get slapped.
And it's Collingwood.
And they'll get
So-
slapped. And
but
it'll be
look,
the same shit.
What I will say, if you do win the next 4 games, it does give you guys a platform to raise the confidence levels
Yeah.
and
But
hopefully.
you know what? It doesn't matter because they're not good enough, and that's just a fact. I don't care. Like, I don't care whether they win the next games or they. I don't care if they slip into the 8 somehow. They're not going to do anything. They're just not going to do anything because they just don't have it. The players that we think are good sometimes and terrible the other times.
I know I agree with you. Given especially that you don't have your first round pick though, you're better off getting exposed to that and moving into next season with something rather than
Sure.
hey, we finished 13th and we got no pick.
Sure,
You know what I
I
mean?
agree. But it's just like there's no point getting hyped up about
I know,
what we
yeah,
could
no,
be.
that
And I
makes
hate
sense.
looking at the ladder and going, oh, yeah, if we win the next 4 out of 5, like anytime you do that, you just lost.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fair.
No.
It's just disappointing to see a team kind of work so hard and try so hard and make football look so difficult when it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And then you look at that you look at the way Carlton plays and you go, oh, that play looked okay. Oh, that play looked all right. And then you switch to another game like the Geelong game and they've 2 kicks and they're in the inside 50.
Yeah.
And it's like, what in the world? And the Giants, look at who kicked the goals from. Hogan kicked a couple of goals. Callum Brown kicked a couple of goals. Cadman kicked a couple of goals.
Toby Green as well, a couple.
Toby Green had a great game as a small, but their keys actually kicked a lot of goals, more so because I reckon they just had the ball movement that allowed them to just expose the one-on-one. Oh, I'm free. I'm taking a mark. You know what I mean? So our defense never set up. So it's just shit. But I don't know.
But yeah. In regards to GWS, Whitfield moved a bit further up the ground. I thought was interesting. Hated it for Supercoach, but I actually think if he gets a little bit of continuity in this role, I think it could be very beneficial for the team long term because you already have the drive of Lockie Ash and and Himmelberg. They've got that the kicking ability down at and even Fonte has a bit of drive off halfback as well.
Yeah.
So you've already got a few options there. All of a sudden you can get a guy who has that energy, that overlap ability. He has a good kick. I think it could be a good move for them long term. I don't know if they're gonna stick with it, but I didn't mind it, to be honest with you. It's almost on the Ken Corn school of thought, move your better players further up the field, move Sheasel further up the field. They've kind of done that with Whitfield in this case.
Yeah. The other one that got more ball time was Halloran.
Yeah,
as
he was
well,
fine.
who I don't think he's that bad of a player, to be honest, but
I feel like he's one of those players that you were referring to with Carlton. You want those high floor players, consistent dudes. He's kind of one of those. He's one of those hardworking dudes who just goes in and, he can win his ball, he can get his tackles, and he's a bit of a dog. You know what I mean? So I don't mind him at all. But no, Toby Green was the man.
yeah.
You mentioned him earlier. He was the man. He was in the CBA action. He was in the midfield. He was getting goals. It was like rolling back the clock, winding back the clock to his first year. He was just 500 plus disposals for a first year player, which was crazy at the time.
Well, I mean, that was his 250th game, and they're calling him the greatest giant. He probably is the greatest giant.
Yeah, no. The only person who could have overtaken him is Jeremy Cameron if he stayed.
Yeah, and Jeremy Cameron's still probably the second best giant.
Yeah, I'd say so. Maybe Whitfield goes in there.
Whitfield will be there. I mean, I think Josh Kelly has to be up there.
Yeah, I think Hogan with a few more years and, depending on what they can do in finals and what he can do in finals.
Yeah, there'll probably be finals for him because he hasn't had a long career there.
But yeah, he's a Coleman medalist too, so I guess he automatically goes up there into that list. Next game, Hawthorn versus Brizzy. Question marks for the Hawks now, lads.
Well, they haven't. This was their chance to beat a really top-end team and prove themselves, and they haven't. And the Hawks have won a lot of games in recent history against Brisbane, and Brisbane really came to play. So,
Well, Brisbane coming off the draw against North and then a disappointing loss at home to Melbourne last week. So I think to catch the reigning premiers 3 games in a row off was always going to be unlikely.
that's true.
In saying that, like you said, though, the Hawks have played them pretty well. I called this last week, they've shuffled maybe a few too many pieces around for the greater good long term. Like, it wouldn't surprise me post-bye if they're building the momentum into finals. But this first half of the year has been a lot of experimentation. Guys like Dylan Moore, different role, Blake Hardwick, just a few of the core veteran pieces not really playing the same role every week, which take Will Day out, a couple other key pieces not quite firing. It doesn't look right just yet. And they're a confidence team, we know that. they only put up 60 points, which is probably the lowest they've scored in a long time.
Yeah. See, it is weird because, like, I know that they need, obviously, you know, the inside brigade to be doing well, and Will Day being out of there doesn't help. But I feel like that was never really super, super important to the way they were playing. For them, it was just quick movement. You know what I mean? And that movement isn't there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
You know what I
confidence ball is just gone right now.
They are being exposed hard in the contested side. I think you can't just purely rely on just the rebound. And yeah, I think that is the way that they've learned to play the game, but they still need their war pools and their Newcombs and that stuff to hold up. And over the last couple of games, they've just been smashed every round in contested footy and clearances, and this was no different. And Brisbane have a pretty lethal midfield, and the way that they move the ball is insane. I mean, it starts with Zorko, but how many times does Zorko have the ball, switch it inside 50, then boom, 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 Rainey's on the end of it or something like that. And it was pretty close, and Charlie Cameron has his first good game of the year, really, where he kicks 3 goals in like 2.5 minutes and just sparks and ignites kind of that Brisbane game style. And then it was kind of on from there. But yeah, I mean, how many of their players are in form at the moment? Like McCluggage is having his career best season. Bailey's having a very good season. And really the list goes on with Neil finding a bit more form and consistency now. Dunkley's always good. The Ashcroft brothers,
Fletcher, even, man.
Fletcher
He's
having
a great
good
season.
Yeah.
No, it's a good side, man. But
I just feel like they're not like Brisbane have all the pieces, and they don't ever really look too stressed. And when it comes to finals, that's when they need to turn it on, and they just have to kind of float above water, and it looks like they're doing that.
They're second, so
Yeah.
they're completely fine, despite the recent blip,
That's
you could
right.
call it.
No concerns for them. I think, the only concerns there is more so for the Hawks, and can they start to beat good teams?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're still, what are they on the ladder right now? They're 6th. So it's not really that bad. But it's just, I think there was a lot of talk about them being top 2, 3. It's not there at the minute. And
Not at the minute, no.
I don't know if it will get there, to be honest.
Well, that's the advantage of winning their first 4 games or whatever it is. Like, you just need to bank the wins, because when you have a form slump, those wins at the start is what carry you.
100%. Did you guys see John Newcomb,
The tackle?
the tackle?
Oh, it's trash,
How
bro.
on earth is he getting fined for that? And then Paul Curtis gets 3 weeks for a genuine tackle.
That's the thing. Like, there's a clear slinging motion.
Man,
He throws him onto the top of his head.
when I
and-
saw that, I was starting thinking, like, I've got Josh Ward in draft, mate. He's going to kill it next week.
Yeah.
And then I see that this guy's completely let off. Man, anyway, we don't need to get into the MRO and all that rubbish, but that's just the most classic example. Like, if you show an uneducated person on AFL, here's 2 tackles, which one would a player most likely get suspended for? Even some person in like a nursing home that's never watched football, never watched sport.
Why are we going in on old people, bro?
No, but like someone who's the furthest away from the current game of football would say 100% that one.
Yeah. You know what it is? I think it's the tackle that I show my yaya. Which one will make her the most upset?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Which one would she react to? Like, oh,
dear, look at this. Because I'll be honest, that's how my grandparents look at sport. They look at footy and they go, what are they doing to each other? This is brutal.
This is what we did in the war back
Yeah,
in the
I know.
day.
They're these gladiators.
put that tackle on, then you start playing Grand Theft Auto in front of them. Which one would they react to first?
Look, the John Newcomb tackle might be worse than the strippers on Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, I'm with you, Dito. Like,
Classic,
it's just more BS from the MRO. Interesting. I was just going to have a look at the Hawks' next few games. They got a tough run at it now. They have Collingwood, Bulldogs, Adelaide at Tassie, so it's not the worst. And then it's us. So then it's North. But, you know, look.
What a rough run that is, man. That's
I
that's
know.
a hard
Those
run
are
for
tough 4
football.
teams. You know? But no, look, all of a sudden, you know, it's they're still, what are they, 2 wins into the 8? I don't know. They could drop out at the 8. You know what I mean? Depending on some results over the next 2 weeks, you know. They probably they'd want to beat one of Collingwood or Bulldogs, especially the Bulldogs, who are competing with them for
And
spots.
this is the thing, though. The Dogs got embarrassed by them in the finals last year. So there's a bit of a chip on the shoulder there, you would have thought.
True.
You know, a bit of a revenge game, so to speak. Pies are going to be hard to beat next week.
Yeah, they're too good.
So you're right. I sort of called this with Adelaide this would be like 2 months ago now. Remember when I said, looking ahead at their fixture and they were hot early season, I'm like, all of a sudden, like, you drop a dumb game, then you maybe drop another one, and you're in that obscurity again. Now, credit to them, they've bounced back.
They have, yeah.
But there was a couple of weeks there where they were a bit like, oof, are they pretenders?
We did get a bit concerned about
You
them.
do need to be careful. Like, I have full confidence they'll play finals, but they should be more so pushing the 4, not just being there.
Exactly.
So we'll see how they go.
Well,
but
that was the expectation anyway.
yeah.
Um,
You want to talk a bit of North Matter?
yeah, as I said, talk about expectations. This is about what we expected scoreline wise, but
Matter and I were at the game, by the way, with my cousin Chris, for a Collingwood fan. Shout out, Chris.
yeah, shout out Chris, man. It was good to
It was
chat with Chris.
Good company. The good kind of Collingwood fan.
Yeah, no, 100%. That was one of the calmest Collingwood supporters I've met.
Yeah,
He was a very chill man. Yeah, look, I think it probably feels worse than what it actually is, considering we were in it for 3 quarters. But that, like, and I said to you during the game, please don't crumble. Please don't crumble. We crumbled. Our system just fell apart. I think it's credit to Collingwood of how good a team they are and the way they go about it. Yeah, look, but I guess the annoying part is that even when we were in it for those 3 quarters, it was Collingwood keeping us in it with bad kicking. So, like, even the positives that you can take out of it, it's kind of nullified as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
From where I was watching the first half, did you watch any of the game, Georgie?
No,
you were busy. Yeah.
Quitting dancing.
Of course, yes.
Bravo,
Good boy.
bravo.
Well
That's
done. Yeah, time well spent versus watching North. But anyway,
Yeah.
in the first half, North had this short kick game happening, like loads more uncontested marks, a lot more possession. And Collingwood, it just seemed to me like they just were totally happy letting us do that. And this is where part of me wants to give us credit for controlling the game to an extent. The other part of me is like, if Collingwood just decides to not let us do this, it will stop. And look, we're up by a couple goals at halftime. No, I can't fault the effort of the boys. Again, they played the game that was given to them. They kicked the ball around. You can tell they were trying not to rush, trying not to make mistakes. And they still did occasionally. And to be fair, a lot of Collingwood's goals were just based off a dumb mistake, as usual, counter-attacking transition. But I did say at halftime, there is 0% chance that this kind of game continues, this short kicking game. At a certain point, Collingwood's going to say, that's enough. Start pressing higher up the field, cut off the short kick, and then what? We're just going to bomb it long, and the game's gone. And you said earlier, Matt, like we were in it for 3 quarters. Technically, scoreboard-wise, yes. But in that third quarter, Pies were 3 goals 8. Could have easily got 8 goals 3. And then all of a sudden, it's already 30 points down at 3-quarter time. So from my perspective, we played a half. Collingwood decided to play the second half and completely destroyed us. And the scoreline, it feels bad, like you said. But ultimately, if you look at it objectively, it was always going to sort of happen. And for any North fan that says like, oh, they had all these outs and we still lost to them. If you think that the difference between Collingwood and North Melbourne is Darcy Moore, Pendlebury, Sidebottom and Poppy Hill, you're dreaming. There's a lot more different about the two teams right now. In saying that, look, couple positives. Riley Hardman, best game he's had. Finally, we've got a bit of a halfback that's got a bit of drive, bit of toughness, but also can defend.
Yeah. Look, it was something I mentioned a couple of weeks ago was, it's nice that we're giving the keys to him, rather than, we're putting Sheasel back there, which is great for Sheasel and his stats and this and that. But I think Sheasel's long-term fit is going to be forward. That's where he wants to play. He wants to be a forward mid. And Hardiman, we drafted him as a halfback. Let the kid play halfback, and he proved the recruiters at the time right that he's got some drive, he's got some kicking ability. He makes mistakes in the kicking, but I'm content with that. I don't mind him making mistakes because it's a 20-year-old. It's not Aiden Cole making the mistake. It's not Toby Pink or these older guys.
No, and that's the thing. Like, and I was sort of joking about it during the game. I'm not really like a whipping boy kind of guy when I'm at the game, but guys like Luke McDonald, Aiden Cole, I'm like a broken record with these guys. They'll do a big spoil. It'll go in the 5th row. Everyone's like, oh, great play. And then they'll give up a goal later. So for me, I'm not judging you based on your highs necessarily if your lows are equal or outweighing them.
Yeah.
That's just the way I am. And it's happened for far too long. Tristan Sherry dominated Darcy Cameron as far as I could see.
Yeah.
So between him and Hardiman, I'm struggling to find too many more really positives, which is, annoying. But yeah, look, it was always going to happen. I'm glad to an extent that we were in the game for half, but also we're a long way off it. That's just simple as that.
Yeah. Look, if I'm going to give one other player credit, right, and I want to quickly just jump into how many the Coleman race at the minute. 3 goals from Cam Zerha in this game.
True, yeah.
So right now he's 14th in the standings. Same amount of goals as Ben Long, who's a guy who's everyone's talking about it being, one of the best, medium forwards in the game. Cam Zerha has been very good. He kicked a freakish goal, which is cool. Had a mark of the week contender as well. I think he's actually been very good. I think I was a bit concerned with his 5-year deal that he was given, but for the moment, I'm liking his game. His kicking's gotten a bit better. Like I feel better with him. I feel better about him kicking, a set shot nowadays.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's got the strength and the body to impact contests, he's actually been very good. So we'll take that as well.
That's a fair comment. I think. Look, ultimately, we're going into the buys 2 wins and a draw. Not good enough.
Nah.
Couple embarrassing losses, couple close losses. I'm hoping that after the bye, we've got these 2 home games in Perth. We play Eagles first up. Simply have to win that one.
Oh yeah.
And then you go into Freo. It's like a free hit almost. You've cashed in on these home games. You're playing them. I think we're playing them in the more obscure stadium. Or no, is it the other way around? Anyway,
I think it's West Coast at the obscure
West
stadium.
Coast. Anyway, yeah. Look, if you beat West Coast, you go free hit Eagles. Then you come back and you play Carlton at the G. I'm not suggesting we're going to win more than one of those games, but you have to win that first one.
Yeah,
if you don't win that
100%.
first one, it's sad times in the second half of the year.
Yeah, we're versing West Coast at Hands Oval.
Hands Oval.
It's called Hands Oval in Bunbury, and then Optus Stadium is what it is. So there we go.
Can I just tell a very quick story about finding our seats for the game? So Matzo was there to witness this. I was filthy at this moment. I don't know about how you felt. I was just thinking about it all week.
I'm trying to think what you're talking about. Yeah.
General admin, level 3 only, Marvel Stadium. Usually at a North game, it's just pick your seat rather.
Yeah.
Collingwood's obviously there in town, so all of a sudden you get to level 3 half an hour early, and good luck finding a spot, right? So you look up at the seating available, and you're seeing a sea of people, and then occasionally seats, and we needed 3, right? And then you'll see the spare seats, but then you see a scarf over it or a jacket, like people are holding seats. You're like, oh, fuck, all right, fine. And then I see, like, not too high up, so we didn't want to sit right on the roof. See, like, halfway through, you're like, all right, there's 3. Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah.
And it's in the middle, so we're like, oh, sorry. We're getting there. And then this guy's like, I go to him, oh, can we grab these seats? He's like, yeah. These 2 are available. I'm like, oh, there's 3 seats. And he goes, oh, no, the bottle's here. Bro put a Mount Franklin bottle underneath one of the seats and expects that to be an appropriate reservation of a seat. Are you kidding me, man?
Yeah, no,
How are we supposed to see that, man? I'm looking up at a sea of people, and there's a bottle on the floor, which I can't see.
Yeah.
And you let us start scurrying in.
I know exactly right. Nah.
Poor form, man.
I'm with you. Nah,
Anyway.
as soon it clicked to me. It did click to me what you're talking about. That
Pissed me off, man.
A Mount Franklin is not appropriate for
That's
a
not
reservation.
how you hold the seat.
It has to be a jacket or a scarf.
It's not even sparkling water, bro.
No, like
No, exactly.
nothing, man.
It's no oral bottle.
There's 3
know,
things
like-
you do to reserve a seat. 1, clothing.
Mm-hmm.
2, you just stand in the area.
Do the leg over.
Yeah,
That's
the
it.
leg over. Or I was
The leg
going to
over.
suggest number 3, you sit on both seats at once, one cheek on each seat.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
leg.
the
Do
only thing
cheeky-
you do.
Yeah.
If you're not doing any of those 3 things, you're not reserving a seat.
100%. That was
Anyway.
quite disappointing. Look, we ended up finding an okay spot. You know what I
No,
mean?
Marvel's lit, man.
Yeah, no, Marvel.
It was good seats,
yeah.
honestly. Like, I don't mind having the sky view occasionally.
Yeah,
Bit of a
no, look,
tactician, you know.
exactly. No, that's the thing. Like, you can see where the next player is in the chain, and the next player is in the
You get
chain.
to be disappointed from more than one angle. It's great.
Exactly right.
You get to see the defensive transition collapse right in front of your eyes. You see the whole thing
Oh,
unfolding.
gosh.
It's great.
Oh man, that is true.
I don't know what it's like to not have reserved seating at a game, so I can't really
sorry.
sympathise.
Yeah,
man, but
look at this.
I'm sorry, my general admin North membership's not good
Get a
enough.
load of this guy, man. But yeah, now look.
All right, let's scurry through a couple of these. 'Cause
Yeah.
if I'm being honest, I didn't
Yeah,
watch too many live.
One quick shout out to Ned Long. They found a piece there.
yeah, he's been amazing.
Honestly, like and this is against a decent midfield in our midfield. 15 score involvements, 2 assists, bruh. Like
nice.
that's that's something. And how many 6 clearances? Yeah, nah, boy can play. And they got him for nothing. So was he an SSP? I'm pretty sure it was an SSP. So
Yeah, wasn't Chris saying he was he the one from Hawthorn?
Hawthorn, yeah, and I think he might have. I think Essendon were looking to pick him up, but they didn't.
Yeah.
I think so, or maybe they did have him at one point. Maybe he was in their VFL or something. But yeah, Ned Long. Shout out to him, man, for finding his spot in the AFL.
And Jamie Elliott as well, who seems to kick
Yes,
5 goals every
yes.
game.
Yeah,
No, man,
nah.
that was the most predictable 5 goals you'll ever see.
Yeah. Dana, you got to start betting because I swear you watch this stuff happen. You're like, bro, I knew this was coming. It happens pretty often, especially with like small forwards against North.
That's easy money, though. That's why I keep saying it. It's not
True.
that I've got any special insights.
True, I might start betting on small forwards against North, bro. 3 goals for this small
At
forward.
least you get a bit of payout. You'll be disappointed, but like,
Couple of rounds, Jesse Motlop. You ain't betting on him.
Yeah,
you ain't betting on him.
You say that, but anyway.
Corey Durden. We got Corey Durden.
Will
anyway.
White. Anyway.
How was Will White still playing football?
I don't know. Bro. You tell
no.
me.
Remember
Anyway.
I told you not to pick him up on Supercoach because he was going to get dropped?
Bro,
He's still there, bro.
yeah, you don't have anyone to drop him for.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Next game. So Dockers 100, Port 51. I sort of said, oh, maybe Port
yeah, no,
bounce
this was
back.
the one. This was the one where I had to convince you guys.
not to.
I had to convince you guys Port's not winning, and I saved you guys a tip. All right,
But they've lost four in a
thank you,
row.
thank you, please.
They've lost 4 in a row, Port.
Yeah,
They're a shambles,
Hey, I
man.
only have one thing to say about this game.
All right.
My boy, Murphy Reed.
Yes,
Man,
18 touches, 4 goals.
gun, mate.
My guy.
Gun. That's it. Him. You got that one right, bro. You got that one right. I'll give you that.
there's that, and there's like 3 other certainties in life: death, taxes, and Luke Jackson dominating single rock.
Oh,
Mm.
what a star.
Look, he was versing what Vigo? Was his name Vigo or
Vicentini.
Dante? Dante. Vigo plays for someone else. I think he plays for Essendon. Yeah, he's versing Vicentini, man.
I don't think it matters who's going to verse, but true, if he's versing this Italian guy, then he's probably going to win.
Nah, sure. Look, yeah, nah. So yeah, look. In saying that, huge performance. He did beat me in draft. Him single-handedly got 160 on me, which was quite disappointing. But yeah, nah. Look, I didn't. We couldn't have expected Port to do well, man. They've got so many injuries, and I think for them, like you can blame the injuries as well. But even when they had everyone available, they still sucked. So it's like that one anomaly game against Hawthorn is all you've shown me this year.
That's all it's been. Yeah.
Legit. So yeah, nah. This is bad. Like it's a bad time for
Some
for
people
Port.
calling for post-buy. Just can leave a bit early, give the keys to
I kind of
Carr.
agree with it.
Well, look, if it gives Josh Carr, Josh, yeah,
Yeah.
Josh or Matthew, Josh.
It's Josh.
Anyway, Josh Carr, right? Give Josh Carr an opportunity to implement the way he wants to play. Maybe he's doing it already, and Ken's just there. I don't know. You know, like, I feel like
I don't think he is.
They're talking like
Yeah.
it's just business as usual, man. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, look, if that's the case, maybe you give Josh the opportunity to, actually implement his game style. But then even then, that might not be a good thing because then all of a sudden he's doing even worse. He doesn't get that full preseason.
They're going to
you
be
know?
playing that style anyway, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Look, I think they haven't had their forward line working. I mean, they bring in Jack Lukosius. He hasn't even played at all. He's played half of a game in the whole year. So there are some concerns. But yeah, it's 4 in a row loss is terrible, and it just seems like every time they lose, it's a smashing. So
Well, you mentioned before about Carlton, like maybe trying to rebuild on the fly, so to speak. With Port now, there's rumours of Butters not re-signing.
Yeah,
if he doesn't say, that's catastrophic.
Wines
for
is
them.
obviously past his best. You got Horn Francis and Rosie, okay.
yeah, Bergman as well. He's another one that
Bergman.
every Victorian club wants. Apparently,
Yeah. So you're looking at it like,
And Bergman's stocks are rising at the moment.
they are.
how far can this go in terms of who leaves, right? Even if it is just Butters. That's Zach Butters, man. Like,
Yeah,
it could get... I can't see this changing.
That'd
Put
be
it that way.
devastating if they lost Butters, man. He's their heart and soul.
yeah. He's top 3 mids in the comp.
The only way
you
this-
guys happy to say that?
Yeah.
Bond,
Yeah,
Butters,
Dacos.
Dacos.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then what? You can put Zeret in there.
Mm.
Up there, 5-6, top 5-6 maybe for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, that would be catastrophe. That would be a catastrophe.
But anyway, credit to Freo.
Yeah, that's it, man. They got to stack up those wins, man. They're sitting at 9th at the minute. Equal points to Bulldogs and GWS in the 8th.
And slightly more attacking football for once. So 2 rounds in a row, they've played a bit more with a bit more aggression. So that's good to see.
100%.
Crows v Eagles was always going to happen.
Yeah, nah, 100%.
The Eagles didn't play too bad for half a game.
Yeah.
Got pushed around in the last quarter specifically. And this is just stat padding from Adelaide. Like everyone looks like they've just had the game of their life.
Pretty much, man.
Josh Rochelle, 5 goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, Rochelle. It's those type of dudes that need to have those big games in situations like this, so they can push them to be confident for the rest of the season.
The other one's Sam Berry.
Yeah, that's out of nowhere. All of a sudden, him racking up the posies, tackles as well. He's a dude who I thought would be finished. To be honest with you, I didn't think that he was ever gonna be that guy because he doesn't really have the class, but he's got that inside game at least that he can that he can provide. And I feel like he scores goals as well randomly. He's one of those dudes. I feel like he randomly pulls these clutch goals. Maybe it's just happened once, and I just it just stayed in my memory that Sam Berry's clutch. But yeah, the Adelaide, as Dino was saying earlier, we had that slight hesitation with them. that they could fall off, but they haven't fallen off. They're doing just fine.
In saying that, look, it is the Eagles, so
yeah.
I think generally though, I agree.
Yeah,
They've been good.
I'm not so much talking about just in the context of this game, but just in general.
Yeah,
Since we're talking about Adelaide, here's an opportunity to say that you guys are doing all right. You guys are doing all right. Shout out Stoinky. If I'm going to shout out one guy for the West Coast Eagles, my boy Jack Graham again. I'm going to mention him probably every week until he has a bad Supercoach
Trying
game.
to just raise his stocks on Supercoach draft, man.
100%, man.
The boys are listening fine.
Nah, the thing is, like, I don't even know if I want to get rid of him at this point. You know what I mean?
That's what they all say.
That's
negotiating tactics. He's not for grabs, everyone.
Nah, but look, like we look into it, man. Like how many clearances? Yeah, 8 clearances. You feel me? 8 clearances for the boys. He's racking up some 8 tackles. That's
All right, I'll
that's
send you
where
an
the
offer
points
later.
are.
That is the least interesting midfield in the competition. Jack Graham, Liam Baker,
Yeah, actually,
whoever the hell else is in there.
let's have a look. What's their CBA? So Harley Reid had the most CBAs. That's what we want to see.
It is.
Elijah Hewitt. Okay, that's cool. Hoff, he's getting midfield minutes. I actually brought him in on draft. He got me a 60, so he's gone. Tyler Brockman got 10, bro.
Brocky.
And Liam Ryan. This is crazy. So yeah, that's interesting stuff. They're trying some different stuff, but they need some proper reinforcements.
Well,
with
Waterman
that
got
midfield.
injured, didn't he?
Yeah. No, look, he's injured. McGovern is, concerns for his career at this point.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, because of concussion. So it's like,
That's not good.
yeah, no, they're probably in the hardest.
Look, West Coast is probably the only team in the competition that there's just no light at the end of the tunnel at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's
Like there's positives for you can make positives for every other team. Even a Carlton or a Port, you can make some positives, right? Right, but West Coast is just an abomination of a club. Like, let's be honest. Like, there's no positives.
Yeah, honestly, it might be one of the hardest uphill battles in the league.
Oh, mate.
Even because at least with Richmond, they've got all these young guys that have just
They've
come
just
in.
rebuilt perfectly at the perfect time.
Exactly right. No, legit. And they got one of the best, potentially one of the better first round picks who isn't going to want to leave because Harley Reid's probably going to want to leave.
He's out 6 weeks though now. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Sam Lawler.
He's
Yeah,
probably
that
lost the
sucks.
rising star of that.
Yeah, true.
If you considered him the favourite.
Well, now it's going to be Murphy or Levi, I'm guessing.
I
think
think Levi.
Yeah, I agree. But look, with the amount of goals that Murphy's kicking,
If he
for a
keeps it
first
up,
year,
yeah. Give him a shout.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next game because I caught the last quarter of this one and Sydney just crumbled, man. Like some of the mistakes they were making, and Melbourne was just goal after goal.
Well, Melbourne have surprised me in how they've been able to turn around their season, man. They were 0-5 or 0-4?
Something like that. They got pounded by us.
I was going to say, look, it doesn't matter what their record was, they lost to us by 60 points.
Yeah, that's
so they
true.
were doing really bad.
They were in the deep.
But they've just got their fire back, and they're playing exciting football suddenly. And if you look at their stats, their ability to create turnovers and lock it in the forward half is all kind of towards the top of the ladder at the moment. So over the last couple of weeks, they've really changed the way that they've played, which is a credit to the team and to the coaching staff to be able to dig themselves out of a hole. And I mean, the player that's got all the props is Cosy Pickett of this game. It's potentially the best game anyone's played this year in my mind because he's a 60% CBA player that kicked 5 goals for.
That's
Those
insane.
those nearly went in. There was a poster in there. There was a couple of like these ones that were crazy snaps at goal and just missed. What type of 60% CBA midfielder has 9 shots on goal?
This is, it's a bit of a throwback to someone like Gaza who would kick goals from the midfield for fun and those type of bags. Not many players do that, bro. It's actually, it's very impressive.
And this is not the only time. Like Cossie's had a very, very good year. And people are starting to catch on to it now, especially because Melbourne's winning some games. But him going into the midfield, effectively becoming an Isaac Rankin, but playing better than Isaac Rankin at the moment.
Yeah, 100%.
And in terms of talent as a player, like there's hardly anyone in the comp that's more talented than this guy. He's amazing. But when Clayton Oliver starts to get the ball a bit more, kick a goal, Petrarca's got a bit more form, Max Gorn's been good all year. I think Lever was back this game, was he? Yeah, Lever played. They just started to have some of their pieces back together.
Well, the thing is for me, like you say the pieces back together, but the form that they've shown specifically in this game, firstly, they've put up 131 points, which for the first how many rounds, they could barely crack 70.
Yeah, that's
right?
including 17 behinds.
Correct. So you got Gorney, 21 touches, 35 hitouts and a goal. Salem, 31 and a goal. Clary, 31 and a goal. You said Cozzy already. Langdon back amongst it, 31 touches. Petrarca, 28 and a goal. Then you go to their rookies. We're saying the rising star. Lindsay and Langford cracked 20 disposals. And they're pretty clean with it. So They've drafted well.
Windsor had 24 as
Windsor
well.
had 24. So they've drafted well, but also, I mean, the most important thing is these premiership players are all playing to their elite capabilities, at least in this game and in last week's game as well. So consistency will be key, but they've always had it in there. It's just they've lost, like their mentality was shot last year in this.
Yeah.
Until recently.
Well, a dude like Ed Langdon, I remember at one point everyone was like, man, this guy is one of the best, most underrated wingers in the game. And then all of a sudden, like, we're just like, why would you want this guy? All of a sudden, this type of performance, he's back at it. You know what I mean? But no, the Oliver and Track and Pickett all playing well. The right time, man. They're really playing well at the right time. And now all of a sudden, Oliver has value again on the market if they do want to get rid of him. And if he does really want to go.
He's not quite at the level that he was, but yeah, he's definitely tracking up. So that's something.
Speaking of tracking up, 200 games for him.
Yeah,
for
true.
the old Track. So
and they looked happy. The Melbourne players, they actually looked happy for once.
That whole love thing, that whole peace and love thing they were doing at the start of the year, maybe it was real. Maybe we all thought it was a little bit, it was a bit sus. But I think they're, it's meaning something for him right now.
I was saying this back then when I was joking about it. It's for me not what you do like in the change rooms, because at one point they were like huddling up and like making a whole big thing about like pre-game vibes, and for me it's like fine, but on the field it just evaporated within half a quarter.
Yeah.
Now, what is fun, and even if you play low-level sports like we all have in the past, winning is the most fun thing. You're winning, everyone's happy.
Exactly right.
You're playing well, everyone then becomes more unselfish, everyone's having a laugh, confident, whatever. Like Hawthorn, we just said they're not confident right now. They will be at some point and be like, oh yeah, these guys they're back. Melbourne, they're back right now.
See, that's why, when we were doing futsal, we needed to drop a division. We needed to swallow our pride, drop a division and just enjoy the game.
Competitive in B, sorry, not competitive in B grade, or top 4 in C grade. Give me top 4 in C grade.
100%.
Low level futsal any day of the week.
100%, mate. You want to be winning. You want to do the occasional move where you're like, look what I just did there. You know what I mean? Those moves that you do, those little quick dribbles around people, those little body feints. You can't do that when there's good teams.
I'm too old to chase shadows, man. I'm too old for this.
Exactly right.
I need the ball. I need some time on the ball. Let my brain catch up.
I need at least 3 touches, man. Give me 3 touches.
Let me drive the car a bit,
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's move on. Last game. Man, the Saints, all the talk was about the pre and then post game mostly because the Saints shut the bed during the game. They were shocked. But pre game, Ross calling the Suns their AFL Nepo baby is crazy on live television, and then post game Hardwick then taking shots at the 13,000 crowd, which is right to do.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
Man, who would have thought the biggest beef of the week would be Saints v Suns? Crazy,
bro. That is crazy, man.
But that is a terrible crowd though. It's
disgusting.
Very hard to not notice that when you're watching it.
North has been bottom 6 for 6 years. Bottom 2 for 6 years. And I don't think we've once had a crowd that low. We've had maybe like 17s and 18s, but not 13.
Yeah, no, that's shocking.
Disgusting.
Look, I'm curious to see now. I want to do some research of like North's last game at versus Gold Coast at Marvel. What did it do? You know what I mean? But like, I don't know. I can't be bothered doing it right now because I don't want to prove. I don't want to prove this argument. Make it a bit. Don't want to make the Saints look good is what I'm trying to say. But no, Ross, he's got to tone it down a little bit. To be honest with you, he's got to take it easy.
When you're talking like that and you're not a good winning team, like it looks real sad real quick.
It does.
You know what I mean? You can get away with saying a lot when you're doing well.
Yeah, look, he could have easily just been like, look, man, we're enjoying the young boys like Nazire and Philippou and Travaglia, who had a half decent game. He was using it all right. Off halfback. Talk up those guys. Don't talk about how the Suns are giving everything. But yeah,
I think at least the Saints finished the game off strong. Like I felt like when the game's over and the team starts playing the way that you wanted them to play from the start. The Saints did that at least in say the last 10 minutes, which was something to see. But the game was over and the Suns are too good. And you mentioned it last week. They've played one game less than everyone, and if they played one game more, they'd be top of the ladder.
Yeah.
So you can't sleep on the Suns anymore, and they've had enough. They've had now half a season to prove that they're real. So
that one game you're mentioning there, yes, it could be the game in hand, but also they lost to Richmond. So that was an anomaly; should never have happened.
Yeah,
100%.
So they could easily be.
That's the Hardwick factor that lost them that. Yeah.
Just quick fact check here. Last time North played the Suns at Marvel, 17,781.
There you go. Saints, lift your game.
Anyway,
lift your game.
Especially because Ross is talking shit about North selling their home games. Like took a pop at
Yeah.
us when we agreed the deal, acting like you're not a serious club or whatever. If you do that, like man, who's winning now?
Right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We're
ex-
getting $1 million. What are you getting?
Exactly right.
Get out of
Exactly
here!
Right. No.
Seriously.
But the other thing is like that obviously means that the fans have given up on their team.
As they
Yeah.
should, to be fair. Nah, look, you don't want to give up on your team to that extent, but like they lost to the Eagles last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
But that's really voting with your feet. I kind of respect that. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I didn't mention. I think Carlton was selling $10 tickets to GWS.
shit.
So that's another sign of shit. We're trying to pack out the stadium.
But at least they're trying something, man. I
But
don't mind that.
$10 tickets means people aren't coming to the game. They've had enough as well.
Mm.
So there's a couple of fans for different clubs that have just had enough of just mediocrity.
Hey man, as someone who's lived in the mediocrity for the last how many years, it's very difficult to go to the games.
No, 100%.
Personally,
man.
I find it hard,
It
but I
is.
still try to go when I can.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, let's move into tipping because we've been yapping a little while here, boys. So Thursday night footy at the Gabba, Lions v Bombers.
Thursday night footy.
Not even a discussion, mate.
Surely the
Yeah,
Bombers
Lions.
aren't a chance.
Yeah,
Well, they're $7.
100%.
Odd sport bet. So Lions, Pies v Hawks. Do the Hawks bounce back?
Nah.
Nah.
Yeah, I'll go Pies as well.
Can't have it.
Suns hosting Freo. Low key, potential to be a good game this one.
Yeah.
I think if they're hosting, though, you got to go Suns.
Yeah, so
Agreed.
it's hard to go against them there. Giants hosting the Tigers. Got to be Giants.
Yep.
Sydney hosting Adelaide at the SCG.
So this is probably the first proper interesting one. But I'll probably go Adelaide because Sydney, they don't really deserve a tip at this point.
Yeah, I'm happy to agree with that.
Yeah, I don't mind the Sydney tip. I don't know. I'll make up my mind before when I see the teams.
Yeah,
Callum Mills, did he get banned?
yeah 1 week.
That's disappointing from him.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's like Dean was saying, does this guy want to play football? You know?
I said when I
Stop
saw
wrestling,
this, I'm
stop
like,
bumping people.
this
you know?
guy just doesn't want to play. Clearly. Yeah. Look, I hear you on the Sydney thing because we're so used to them being a perennial good team. Like it's hard to see them in.
Well,
bad
they had a
form.
good game last week, and then they had a bad game this week.
They're at home. Yeah,
It's
Adelaide-
disappointing what they put up, Sydney. Surely they respond.
Yeah, I don't fully trust Adelaide yet, so I kind
It's
of
just the SCG factor. I'm sure Adelaide's not good there.
yeah. I half agree with you, so let the record show my hesitation. I'll go Crows.
Yeah.
I'll go Crows. Melbourne hosts St Kilda at this point.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
go.
Alice
Melbourne,
Springs
yeah.
as well.
Oh.
Cosy might go 5 again.
Yeah, true. So, no, we got to go Melbourne.
You don't want him to go 5 this week, do you?
Why?
Draft.
Oh,
Oh,
shit! I'm
true.
playing George.
True. He might be laid out, is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that there's some
Nah,
talk.
look, I'm gonna eat at 1:30 there. I've already accepted it. That's fine. Eagles hosting the Cats. That's got to be the Cats. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds
Right.
good.
On the bye this week, our boys, the Blues and North, Port and the Dogs.
There you
So
go.
sure.
3 of those teams have been woeful. They
I
need
know.
it.
We need it. Yeah.
Only one team has gone above expectations. You know,
Yeah, Doggies, yeah.
and the Doggies are there. You give them an A at least.
I will say just
Great.
quickly on the fixturing this week, if you're actually free this weekend to watch as many games as you want, so you got the Thursday, Friday night games, fine. Saturday's 1:20, 4:15, 7:30, and then Sunday's 3:20 and 7:20.
It's almost like the more natural way to watch football.
It actually seems it.
Let's just delete some of these teams.
Well, the extra 2 games there, would you throw in like a? You'd go one more on the Sunday,
Yeah.
an earlier one, like a 1:10, and you do a Monday from now on.
No, I don't
Huh?
like it for podcast purposes. For
But for
Supercoach
viewing
purposes.
purposes,
For viewing
Wait, what happens when Tassie comes in and it's uneven?
I don't know.
it'll be a bye every week.
Probably. Yeah,
Actually,
it'd be
probably better.
yeah. Look, it might. It's going to be a hard one to schedule for the AFL, man. That's going to be a headache. Like it's going to be so unfair, like it always is. Like there'll be a club who has to do. Here's the thing: if you do buys, like mid-season buys, there'll be a club who might have 2 buys in a row.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I don't know
be-
for sure, but I can guarantee they'll botch it somehow. So,
100%, 100%.
anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else you guys want to chat about?
Nah, not really.
Live long and prosper. Be happy.
That's it. All right. See you guys
See
in
you
the next
later.
one.
Yeah.